Welcome to Lavender Town Radio, where shadows whisper and every story hides a darker truth. Tonight, let me take you deeper into the world of Pokémon you were never meant to see. My name is Lyra. It's been 5 years since I lost Leo. I'm not writing this for pity or for forgiveness. I'm writing because the silence is killing me, and because I'm afraid that if I don't tell this story, that melody will devour the last remaining memories of my little brother. We lived in Canalave City, the city of bridges and canals. To tourists, it was a picturesque place. Wooden boats drifting lazily, wind chimes tinkling from souvenir shops, and the Canalave Library standing tall like a gentle giant, holding all the knowledge of the Sinnoh region. But for those of us born and raised here, Canalave has another face when night falls. The salt mist rolls in from the sea, swallowing the streetlights, turning familiar alleys into alien paths. And in that mist, you can hear strange things. Leo, my brother, was 8 years younger than me. He was a fragile boy, both physically and emotionally. He was often sick as a child, which meant he didn't have many friends. His world was a small one, confined to his bedroom with his Pokémon figures, picture books, and me. I was the sun in his tiny universe, and I failed him. It all started in the autumn, when the air grew colder and the nights longer. Leo started telling me about a song. "Lyra," he whispered one evening as I was tucking him in, "can you hear it?" I listened. Outside, there was only the soft lapping of waves against the pier and the whistle of the wind through the window frame. "Hear what, Leo? I just hear the wind." "No," he said, shaking his head, his eyes wide in the darkness. "It's a song. It's so beautiful. It makes me sleepy." I ruffled his hair and smiled. "It's probably just a lost Jigglypuff. Go to sleep, kiddo." But the song didn't stop. Leo told me about it every night. He said it came from the sea. Sometimes it was a clear, high-pitched voice. Other times, it was a deep, soothing melody that made all his worries disappear. He started drawing them, the clumsy drawings of a 7-year-old, a pink ball with pointed ears, a yellow creature holding a pendulum, and the most haunting one, a purple balloon with a fluffy cloud on its head and empty, X-shaped eyes. "These are my friends who sing to me," he explained, pointing at the drawing. "They say I'm not alone. They say they'll take me to a place where no one is ever left behind." I should have recognized them. I should have known those were drawings of Jigglypuff, Hypno, and Drifloon. But I was 15 then, busy with school, with my first crush, with trying to be normal. I saw Leo's words as nothing more than the products of a lonely imagination. "Okay, Leo," I said, my voice impatient, "but don't tell Mom and Dad. They'll just worry." It was the biggest mistake of my life. I told him to keep it a secret. I remember the last night perfectly. It was a full moon, its cold silver light flooding Leo's room through the open window. I woke with a start around 3 in the morning, not from a nightmare, but from the silence. The house was too quiet. I shot out of bed, a cold dread washing over me. I ran to Leo's room. The bed was empty, the sheets still warm. The window was wide open, the thin curtain fluttering in the sea breeze. And on the window latch, snagged on the metal, was a single small yellow string, just like the strings on a Drifloon. Panic hit me like a tidal wave. I screamed. My parents rushed in, and our world fell apart in the middle of the night. The police came. Officer Jenny and her team turned the city upside down. They searched every alley, interviewed every neighbor. The official theory was a kidnapping or that Leo had run away. No one believed my story about the song or the yellow string. They were dismissed as the imaginations of a grieving sister.
days turned into weeks. Posters with Leo's smiling face were plastered everywhere, only to be blurred and torn by the wind and rain, just like my family's hope. My parents drowned in their sorrow, and I was consumed by guilt. I knew this wasn't a normal disappearance. I knew Leo's friends had come and taken him away. I began my own search, a search in the shadows. I dropped out of school. During the day, I pretended to sleep, but at night, I wandered Canalave, listening. I walked the piers, crossed the bridges, listening for the melody Leo had described. Finally, I went to the only place that might hold the answers, the Canalave Library. I buried myself in there for weeks. I read everything: the city's history, records of missing persons, books on ghost and psychic-type Pokémon. At first, I found nothing. But then, in a dusty corner of the basement, I found a collection of old newspapers, dating back decades, even centuries. And I saw it, a pattern. Every few decades, Canalave experienced a string of unsolved child disappearances. It was always lonely, introverted children. It always happened in the autumn, during the full moon. The articles described desperate parents talking about how their children had mentioned invisible friends or music in the night before they vanished. My heart stopped. This wasn't the first time. I found an old leather-bound book with no author titled Sinnoh's Forgotten Melodies. Most of it was harmless folk music, but in the final chapter, there was an entry on the Midnight Choir. It wasn't a legend, it was more like a documented warning. The book said that on quiet, moonlit nights, a strange resonance would form between 3 types of Pokémon. First, Jigglypuff. Not the gentle ones we know. These were ancient, wild individuals whose lullabies could not only induce sleep, but also break down mental barriers, leaving the victim vulnerable and suggestible. Once the barrier was broken, Hypno would appear. Its pendulum wasn't just for sleep. It was a psychic tool that delved into the subconscious, seeking out sadness, loneliness, and the deepest desires. It didn't create illusions. It amplified what was already there. It whispered to the child that there was a place where they would never be lonely again, a place of pure joy and friendship. It turned the longing for love into an irresistible command. And finally, when the child's mind was completely convinced, Drifloon would arrive. They weren't malicious kidnappers as modern Pokédex entries described. They were ferrymen, floating souls that carried the children who were ready to a place somewhere across the sea. They do not take the children, a frantic handwritten note in the margin read. They harvest the loneliness. I threw up right there at the table. Harvest. The word was so cold, so clinical, as if Leo and the others were just a crop.
I needed a living person to confirm this. Sifting through the old articles, I found the name of a man, Silas, who had lost his sister in a similar wave of disappearances 50 years ago. He was the only one who told the police about the song and was, of course, dismissed as a madman. I found Silas living in a dilapidated shack on the edge of the harbor. He was a withered old man who reeked of cheap liquor and sea salt. His eyes were sunken, but when I told him my story, they lit up with a terrifying spark of lucidity. "So they've returned," he rasped, his voice gravelly. I warned them. I told everyone. He told me about his sister Alara, how she had also talked about the song, about flying friends. About the full moon night, he woke up to see her climbing out the window, her hand in the string of a Drifloon, a blissful smile on her face. He had tried to pull her back, but she just shook her head and said, "Don't be sad, Silas. I'm going where everyone is a friend." "I tried to follow them," Silas said, his voice trembling. "They went towards the Seagull's Perch, where there's a sea cave that only appears at the lowest tide of the full moon. But I was too slow. By the time I got there, the tide was already coming in. I could only hear their song echoing from inside the cave, and then silence." He looked at me, his eyes boring into my soul. "Don't look for your brother, girl. You won't find what you're looking for. Those children, they weren't taken. They chose to go. The choir gives them something this world can't, a promise that they will never be lonely again. And for that promise, they are willing to give up everything." I didn't believe him. I couldn't. Leo would never leave me. He loved me. The next full moon was only 2 days away. It was my only chance. I prepared everything: a waterproof flashlight, a rope, and my family's grow light, Arcanine, my loyal companion. His fire was the only thing I could trust against the cold of the night.
On that night, I lied to my parents, telling them I was staying at a friend's house. Arcanine and I went to Seagull's Perch. The sea was as still as glass, the moonlight turning its surface into a vast silver mirror. Just as Silas had said, the tide had receded to an unnaturally low level, revealing a dark, jagged cave entrance I had never seen before. A faint melody drifted out from within. It was Leo's song. It was hauntingly beautiful. The crystal clear voice of a Jigglypuff, woven with the deep, hypnotic hum of a Hypno's pendulum. The melody crept into my head, not through my ears, but as if it were being injected directly into my mind. It whispered of my own loneliness, my guilt, my exhaustion from trying to be strong. It promised release, a place of peace. "Lyra," a voice echoed in my head, sounding exactly like Leo's. "I'm here. Come to me. You won't have to be sad anymore." Arcanine growled, his fur bristling. The warmth from his body was the only thing keeping me grounded. "Shut up!" I gritted my teeth and stepped into the darkness. The cave was deeper than I thought. The air inside was thick and cloyingly sweet. The deeper I went, the louder and more powerful the song became. It was no longer a melody. It was a wall of psychic sound, battering against my will, trying to break it. Memories flooded back. The times I snapped at Leo, the times I was too busy to play with him, the times I dismissed his stories. Each memory was a hammer blow to my heart. Then I saw them. The cave opened into a massive cavern, lit by the faint phosphorescence of the rocks. In the center, on a stone platform, a Jigglypuff sang, its eyes closed in deep concentration. Beside it, a large Hypno swung its pendulum, its eyes glowing with a soft yellow light. And all around them, floating silently in the air, were dozens of Drifloon, motionless, and beneath them, holding their strings, were the children. There were about 20 of them, of all ages, wearing clothes from different eras. Some outfits were faded and tattered. They all stood there, silent, looking up at the choir with contented smiles on their faces. Their eyes were wide open, but they were empty, soulless. And then I saw him, Leo. He stood at the very front, so small in his Snorlax pajamas. He was smiling too, a happier smile than I had ever seen on his face, Leo! I screamed, my voice cracking.
My shout was like a stone thrown into a still pond. The song stopped abruptly. Every head turned towards me in unison. The smiles didn't fade, but the emptiness in their eyes now shifted to something else. Annoyance. As if I were a discordant note in their perfect symphony. The Hypno stopped its pendulum. It stared at me. An immense psychic pressure crushed down on me, making me want to collapse. Leave, a cold, ancient voice boomed in my mind. You do not belong here. Your chaos taints the harmony. Leo, please, come home, I sobbed, trying to step forward. Mom and Dad miss you. I miss you. Leo looked at me. His smile faltered slightly. For a single moment, a flicker of recognition sparked in his vacant eyes. Lyra! Hope surged through me. Yes, it's me! Come back with me, Leo! I held out my hand, but he didn't take it. He just shook his head, slowly, almost regretfully. But it's so nice here, sister, he said, his voice flat and emotionless. No one cries here. No one is alone. We are one. Don't you see? He gestured to the other children, and for the first time, I noticed something horrifying. The strings from their hands didn't just connect to the Drifloon. Faint, glowing threads of energy linked all of them together, connecting them to the Jigglypuff, to the Hypno. They were a network, a single collective consciousness. We sing together. We dream together. Forever. You can join us. Your sadness? It sounds so beautiful. Give it to us. You won't need it anymore. No. This wasn't my Leo. My Leo would never say these things. Our canine flamethrower! I screamed in desperation. A brilliant jet of fire shot towards the Hypno, but before it could connect, dozens of Drifloons swooped down, forming a living shield. The fire hit them and dissipated. They weren't even singed. The Hypno began to swing its pendulum again. This time, the song wasn't melodic. It became a screeching, chaotic mess. All the children, including Leo, opened their mouths in unison, but instead of voices, what came out was a high-pitched psychic shriek that drilled directly into my brain. It was all of their loneliness, weaponized. The pain of dozens of forgotten children across centuries, focused and aimed directly at me. I collapsed, clutching my head, screaming. Our canine whimpered in agony beside me. My world shattered. I saw myself as a 15-year-old again, standing in Leo's empty room. I saw the disappointment in my parents' eyes. I saw Leo smile in photos, a silent accusation. You abandoned him, the choir roared in my mind. You left him alone. We only gave him what he always craved. We healed him. I looked up through my tears. Leo was watching me, his head tilted. He didn't recognize me anymore. I was just a source of interference. Seawater began to flood the cave. The tide was rising. We have to go! I pulled my whimpering Arcanine to his feet. Let's go! I scrambled out of the cave, the choir's song chasing me. It was no longer an invitation, but a curse. I barely made it out before a huge wave crashed in, submerging the cave entrance in a torrent of white foam. I collapsed on the wet sand, shivering, the choir's screams still echoing in my mind.
I had found Leo, and I had lost him again in a much crueler way. Silas was right. He didn't want to come back. That place wasn't a prison. It was a warped paradise built from broken souls. The choir wasn't a monster that ate children. It was a parasite that fed on loneliness, and in return, it gave its victims an eternal sense of belonging. That was 5 years ago. My family moved away long ago. They couldn't bear the memories in Canalave. But I stayed. I bought a small apartment overlooking the sea, near Seagull's Perch. I don't look for Leo anymore. I know where he is. Sometimes, on quiet nights, when the wind blows in from the sea, I think I can hear it. A distant, faint melody, a lullaby. It doesn't scare me anymore. Sometimes I find myself humming along to it. The tune is so beautiful. It promises peace, an end to all the pain. I know that one day I won't have the strength to fight it anymore. One day, on a full moon night, I will walk to Seagull's Perch and wait for the tide to recede. I will step into that cave, not to save anyone, but to be saved, to give them my sadness, to become one with the choir, to be with Leo forever. The song is calling my name, and this time, I think I'm going to answer.
The signal fades, but the darkness lingers. This was Lavender Town Radio. Return, if you dare, because the next story may be your last.